Hello, I'm Greg Stewart with the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization, and it's time again to talk transportation. And I'm joined by
Wes Marshall.
Wes. It's great having you here, but I also understand you've just written a book. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So the book is called "Killed by a Traffic Engineer."
Hopefully we don't resemble that.
Well, I am a traffic engineer, so the way I start the book off, something like medicine has been around for 5,000 years.
Right.
For the first 1,000, you could probably argue they killed more people than they saved. It's an empirical science; they get better. Traffic engineering, transportation engineering, we've only been around for 100 years. And if you dig deep, you can start to see how we still might be killing more people than we save.
Interesting. You know, the whole idea of transportation engineering is only 100 years old blows my mind because believe it or not, my last name is Stathopoulos. It's not Stewart. And so I come from a very ancient culture that built roads a lot of places. And I can't imagine that wasn't engineered. So, but it probably wasn't.
Civil engineering, so transportation fits within that umbrella. Civil engineering goes back to ancient Greece, ancient Rome, all that sort of
The
place.
water systems and all that.
Oh, yeah.
We put in conveyance of sewage, underground instead of throwing it on the street like they did in England and Germany. It's an interesting world. That said, if you're talking about being killed by a traffic engineer, and I do believe you're probably right on the empirical data, what is the first thing in your book or in your mind that our friends that are here, because we have few transportation engineers, traffic, what should they be thinking about?
Oh, there's so much there, but some of it is just so fundamental. For one, I hear this all the time. What's our biggest problem in road safety? Well, it's human behavior. People are dumb, they're speeding, they're jaywalking, whatever it is. And I would say, sure, that's useful for liability purposes, that's useful for the police. It is not useful for us as transportation engineers to get better. It takes us off the hook, and we don't even realize we might have an infrastructure problem. So what I would say is, if anytime someone does something that we don't like, don't just blame them and tell them to be better. Think about why they're doing it. A lot of time, if you start asking why, and why did they cross the street here, and you zoom out and you look at the fact that the nearest crosswalk is a half mile away.
Right.
And there's no sidewalk in between where they are and that crosswalk. And even if they go to that crosswalk, it's not even a safe crosswalk. And you think where they live and where they're going, it makes perfect sense from their point of view. They weren't trying to die.
Right.
They were doing what was a very rational decision for them at the time.
When you come into that type of engineering, and I would have loved to take you to our offices, it's one of those great examples. There's a dedicated turn lane with what's it called, a pork chop?
Yeah.
And then another 4 other lanes going straight through. So the sidewalk meanders onto the pork chop, and then meanders to the median, and then meanders and another pork chop.
It's a multi-stage crossing.
One of my favorite things is going into my office. Now, we have a train that services the office, but I don't always take the train to work.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm driving and I'm in the turn lane to go into my office building, and the pork chop is down over there. It's a 4-lane road and a 2-lane road. People in the pork chop making that turn are then joined by people making that exact same turn past the pork chop coming down. So if you're a pedestrian, or if you're making a left, you're now have 2 to 3 different vehicles coming hurling at you to an interstate exit that actually starts at the intersection that goes into our building. So it then drags down, but my favorite part about that intersection or interchange is it tilts up, and when you get to the crown, then you look down and it's straight down to and if the interstate is backed up, you don't see the taillights of the car in front of you until you crown over. So you got pedestrian issues, you got vehicular issues, all of this stuff, and yet that was designed by an engineer.
Yeah. And that's the kind of crash that when I look in my crash data, I'm a researcher, so I'm looking at statistics all the time. There's going to be some human error component, this person should have yielded the right of way to that person for every crash that happens there. But when you look at that place, it's a perfect example. This is a systematic problem. We've designed it in a way to encourage these conflicts.
Right.
But if we treat it as they need to learn how to behave better, we're never going to actually improve the system. And to me, that's where we can do so much better than we've been doing for the last 100 years.
So, the idea that, we're designing a system that basically may not necessarily work for all the users. Today, we're at the Moving Families Forward conference here in Fort Lauderdale, and we're talking about safe roads. In your book, does it give solutions to our traffic engineers not to kill us?
Yeah, so I couldn't give all the solutions I wanted. My publisher said my book was already longer than Prisoner of Azkaban. I needed to already cut it back some. But where I say we need to start is a more fundamental mindset shift. So I focus first, like where's like the low-hanging fruit? Like where can you go into a public meeting and not get the pushback? It's with kids. This fits perfectly with the Moving Families Forward, right? If there's someone saying, oh, I want to be speeding through a school zone, everyone's there is like, oh, that guy's a jerk. Like, we can fix this problem. So figure out where kids are, where they're going, start around the schools and work out, because it is a network issue. It's not just the street next to the school. It's bigger picture than that.
So we have this program, it's called Think Like a Planner.
Yeah.
And we actually bring students from, participating public schools to our offices, and then we walk them around and, with some supervision.
Yeah.
And they come back with solutions. They identify problems and identify solutions. We have a STEM mobile that we have 4 of them that goes out of the Museum of Science, goes to all other schools, and we provide them we'll design your perfect road, and it's really fascinating what the solutions they come up with.
Well, their perspective is so different. Like a lot of engineers I know, they never even walk or bike or take transit. Their perspective is entirely through a windshield. Right. Now compare that to a kid that can't drive, that doesn't have the same sort of wherewithal to do what we can do to get around. Maybe they can't even use Uber or Lyft or things like that. So what do? They see the space so much differently. Like what works for them is not going to work for that engineer that's designing the space.
How do we break down that barrier?
Well, I think we need to think about the user more. Like whenever we even design a crosswalk, we figure out, well, we use 3.5 feet per second. Like that's what we assume is the average. We know full well that 15% of the population doesn't walk that fast. We also know full well that kids don't. And we know that they don't have the capacity to sort of gauge speed of oncoming traffic. So we can design very differently around schools, in a way that fits them. Like kids are going to be shorter, so maybe the stop bar has to be pushed back, right? So we know the hoods of cars are so big and you can't see right in front of you. So we've designed these crosswalks in a way where the driver of the car cannot physically see somebody in the crosswalk if they're stopping where we tell them they should be stopping. You push them back a little bit, especially around schools.
Do you find Florida has a unique driving population? I find a lot of the vehicles stopping in the crosswalk versus at the bar to stop.
There are things like allowing right turn on red. For some reason we treat that as the default. So a lot of intersections, the driver, the light just turns red. They're looking to see if there's traffic coming from the left to try to kind of still take the free right turn. Right. And that's at the same time we're telling that pedestrian to come from the right. We're telling that pedestrian it's their turn to cross. The driver, we've distracted them by thinking they can take a right on red. We don't have to. That could be something we treat as a variance. The engineer has to sign off on allowing that. Yeah. But we do the opposite, treat it as a default. Same with permissive left turns on arterial with, the green ball instead of the green arrow. This, you got that driver, you're saying they're taking the left turn. We're distracting them with oncoming traffic. So you're looking for a gap in the traffic to shoot across to take the left turn. Yeah. You have somebody behind you kind of giving you back pressure. Come on, man, go, go, go. At that exact same time, what are we doing? We're telling that pedestrian it's safe to cross. We put up the white walk symbol, and we sufficiently distracted this driver from seeing the pedestrian. And not only that, the A-pillar is in the way. We've obscured the pedestrian. So this is a systematic problem. That is the norm at almost every intersection in every city. Right. And we could design it out of the system like this if we just had a different mindset.
Awesome. I think, what? I'm looking forward to getting on your podcast and having a good banter conversation about design and what's wrong and what we can do to fix it.
Yeah, David and I are going to be happy to have you on there. Yeah. You would be our first guest we've ever had on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this one. It was fun.
It was good. Thank you, everybody. See you at the next one.